Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen, and all in between, and welcome to part 23 of the life and suffering of Sir Brante, the Inquisitor path, for what I will believe will be the last episode of this series. So, we've reached the very end of the revolt, and it is night time. We've gathered our allies, done what best we can, and now we will see how the fate of Jordan Brante will end. It's the year 1146, this is chapter 5, the final hour. It is mere moments from midnight. The glow of the shining pillar is barely visible behind the crimson clouds coming in from the north. But the darkness hanging above the city is dissipated by countless lights, crowds of people holding torches, stakes burning in the squares, houses in flames. The glow of the fires can also be seen from beyond the city walls. The Legion marches down the road, inexorably approaching the gate of a city in the throes of rebellion. The final battle draws near. All the forces that have chosen to defy the Overseer and the Empire flock to the city gate, where you have set up your base. The soldiers of the last straw assemble commoners into squads and hastily arm them. Other rebels are led by nobles of the Mantle and former members of the Legion who have joined the revolt. The priests who have sided with you will spread the word of the twins from the city walls, attempting to convince the Legion soldiers to retreat and allow the people of Anisot to be free of the lots. Preparations are also in full swing at the camp of the defenders of the Old Order, who have established a foothold in the ruins of Charmalanandas's palace. Soon their fate will be decided. Will they crush the revolt with the aid of the Legion, or be crushed themselves by the new era? There is almost no time left, just enough for one last attempt to tip the scales in your favour. Will you spend this final hour appealing to one of your allies for help, or would it be wiser to wait and muster your forces to the battlefield? Will you attempt to defeat the Legion and the Overseer's army in combat, or persuade them to retreat without engaging in battle? The fate of Anisot is in your hands. So we could try and muster our forces, which will give us willpower plus 10. We can't gather the soldiers of the last straw, which is a shame because that would have given us our one last chance to get Sophia to transfer all the last straw soldiers to us, and we can't do that because she's not hopeful. I can't ask my family for help because my father hasn't become a rebel and my family hasn't perished. That would have happened if Gloria stuck around though. I can ask Father Leonard for help because he's Patriarch. That will give us Clergy 1, Common Folk 1 and Revolt 1, or I could go see Elborn, which gives me Revolt 1 and Nobles 1. Now for the Revolt, we've got the Clergy and the Common Folk. We could get them into indisputable leader of both of them, which I think is what we'll do, and we'll go with Leonard. But unfortunately, because we aren't in control of the forces of the Revolt, it's going to be the Anisot Massacre. But we're going to ask Leonard for help because it'll give us the extra leadership of the Common Folk and the Clergy. In order to crush the Legion, you will have to win over more commoners and clergymen. At this point, the word of the twins is the only thing capable of influencing those with lingering doubts. You take a small squad and immediately set out for the Temple of the Silver Tree. The square in front of the temple is packed with people. It has become filled with tents and crude barracks in a matter of hours. Patriarch Leonard and his flock are helping the wounded, sharing food and shelter with the commoners. The newly elected Patriarch is so exhausted he can barely stand, but he still finds enough strength to offer you a friendly greeting. Brother Jordan, I'm so glad to see you escaped the carnage. How may I be of help? You get right to the point. Although Leonard was elected Patriarch in the sight of the twins themselves, there are still many old believers among the people of Anisot. This is his last chance to win them over. He must not squander it. You are quite right, brother. I must speak to them. Let your people bring those who hesitate hither beneath the silver tree. I will promise my guardianship and the protection of the twins themselves to all who come to the temple and accept the new faith. You order your people to spread the word of the Patriarch's promise. A communion ceremony will be held by the silver tree tonight. Despite all the disturbances and fighting in the streets, Many commoners and priests still gather for the sermon. The shining pillar glimmers above the square. The leaves of the silver tree suddenly rustle so loudly they drown out the drumbeat of the oncoming legion. Leonard addresses the crowd gathered before him. Even on a night as troubled as this, his resonant voice still instills hope in those who hear it. My brothers and sisters in faith, I, the first patriarch of Magla, chosen by the people, have glad tidings for you. The lots are no more. You are all free to choose your own path in this worldly life. An excited murmur ripples throughout the crowd. But what if you're wrong, Leonard? What if we disobey the will of the twins and get sent to the foot of the pillar to endure eternal torment? I understand your fears, but they are nothing before the great will of the twins, and today their will has acknowledged the new faith. Upon hearing this, an awed hush falls over the crowd. Both commoners and clergymen kneel obediently to accept the new faith. No, my brethren, stand. You have knelt long enough. Neither the sword nor the lash will ever touch you again. Only the word of the twins will guide you to the peak of the pillar, as you hear their words stall as equals. Accept their blessing. Dumbfounded, not quite believing their ears, the people rise to their feet. I, Leonard, Patriarch of Magla, by the will of the people and the twins, hereby accept you into the bosom of our new church. From this day forth, your only lot is the one you choose for yourselves. Your destiny is your own. Fight for it, and you shall be victorious. The temple square shakes with shouts of joy. Even the silver tree itself seems to echo these cries, its roots and branches quivering. Midnight strikes. You can hear the menacing tread of the legion outside the city walls. Your time has come. You order your troops to assemble and prepare to defend the wall. And when indisputable leader of the clergy, indisputable leader of the common folk, and the revolt is at max. It's a bloodbath. And the willpower is plus 10. So we're full of power. Sorry, plus 5, giving us 10. We unfortunately didn't reach the victory conditions for a peaceful or a military victory. It's going to become a massacre. That's really heart-wrenching having played through this game to not get a good ending. But we had 2 tries. We stoked up the flames too strongly in the previous act, and we didn't get on good terms with Sophia. Despite the fact she doesn't play a big role in the clergy path or the noble path, we didn't make her hopeful. And now we will face the twins as judgment. The battle for Anizot. The dark void beyond the walls of Anizot is lit by hundreds of lights. Heavy boots tread the soil, armour clanks, halberds gleam, drums beat a lively march. Lit by the glow of the torches, the Maglan Legion approaches the city walls. Gaius Tempest himself leads the Legion. It is the Overseer's duty to crush the revolt this very night, and pacify the city before news of the incident spreads throughout the Empire. If the Overseer's hesitation allows the revolt to last even a few days, it could jeopardize not only his position, but even the fate of the entire province that has been entrusted to him. Before ordering an assault, the Overseer sent a message to the city. My subjects, lay down your arms this instant and open the gate. I know that you have been deceived by the insurgency. You have my word as an Archnian ruler that I will spare anyone who aids the Legion and turns over the leaders of the revolt. Should you disobey this order from your lawful ruler, none of you will escape disgrace, execution, and eternal torment at the foot of the Shining Pillar. But the Overseer's threat only further enraged the rebels. An entire city rebelling against imperial rule. Nothing like this has happened for generations, but not even experts in ancient history could have imagined what is happening on the streets of Anizot at this moment. The decisions you made today have led the entire city to rise up against the imperial rule. By nightfall, everyone who has suffered from noble tyranny has taken to the streets in support of the last straw. Even those who began the day cowering in terror from the Overseer's wrath have now emerged from their homes and joined your cause. The commoners' fear has been eclipsed by their rage. They march through the city in droves, ready to dispense their own justice. By sunset, even the most loyal defenders of the Empire have come to realize that all hope is lost. The Loyalists have amassed considerable forces at Charmalandas' palace, but they are too late. Hordes of furious commoners stormed their camp, crushing any resistance. Exhausted and demoralized by the futile fight, many defenders of the old order flee mob justice or surrender and accept their death with dignity. The moans of those trampled by the incensed throng can be heard throughout the camp. Abandoned imperial banners are hurled into the fire. Make way! The crowd grows silent and parts before Sophia. The leader of the revolt is disheveled, her clothes stained with blood, but a predatory smile lingers on her face. Here, amidst fire and madness, she has finally found her place in the world. I hate her so much. Just look at your former masters now. Pathetic, aren't they? They thought they could put us in chains again, but they dropped their sword at the first sight of us. They lied to you for centuries, telling you it was your lot to suffer and break your back for them, but look who's suffering now. I give you my word, tonight we're going to execute anyone who isn't on our side, every single one of them, and then we'll feast among the ruins of the old world. If I get a chance to kill her, I might go for it, even if it means giving up my life and going for true death. The crowd roars, shaking their weapons in the air. Now the only thing standing between us and freedom is the Legion, but we'll take down the Overseer's troops just like we took down the Emperor's lackeys here in Anizot. But first we need to get rid of the rest of the enemies and traitors in this camp. Oh, she's coming for me. Sophia takes a glance around the site of the recent massacre. Her merciless gaze stops at you. Brante! The time has come. This moment will determine your place in history. So we can't flee because we don't have scheming, and we can't accept death because I'm not defender of the Empire. So we can stop the slaughter, which leads to the revolt is defeated. True death for me. Oh, you get +4 deaths, look at that at the very end. Regardless, the power of the province is destroyed, the church it will be almost destroyed, and order is +4. The revolt is defeated. I can take charge of the bloodbath, leading to Gaius Tempest getting true death. I can do this just because Sophia is 0. It's +1. Power is +2, Church +1, Order -2, and the wealth and Magra is destroyed. That leads to the Anizot massacre. Or I can defy Sophia, and again I have a true death. And the Anizot massacre. I don't know what to do here. The revolt will be defeated if I do this. But Sophia isn't killed by the sounds of it. So does that make it worth it? This ends the revolt. It just puts Anizot back under the rule of the Empire, which isn't good. We can defy Sophia, but I'll die anyway. The church gets +1, power is +2. Where does that put us? Power +2 puts the Reign of Terror, and the church is already max, so that doesn't really matter actually. Order -2 and the Wealth of Magra. Order puts it -2, puts it at unrest, so it stays where it is. And it devastates, Magra becomes a barren land. Or I can stop the slaughter. Okay, so this is the same outcome for the city, except for they both lead to the Anizot massacre. I can do this because I've got 10 willpower and the rebel, and I've got enough troops and common folk on my side. But it defeats the revolt. I mean, I'm not going to do that because I don't want the revolt to be defeated. The option here is I either die trying to take out Sophia, which I said I would do, but there's no guarantee here that Sophia is defeated, or I can take charge of the bloodbath. I really don't know what to do. If that said Sophia died, I would take it. But because she doesn't, there's no guarantee her dying, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't because it would tell us. The fact that it says Gaius Tempest gets a true death here means that Sophia doesn't die here, so I guess we just go all in. There can be no mercy for the enemies of the revolt. You will be responsible for dispensing vigilant justice and defending the walls from the Legion. This is not where we wanted to be. You meet Sophia's gaze. You share her ruthless determination. Together you will dispose of anyone who dares to stand in your way. The path you have chosen will lead to plenty of blood and suffering, but you are both ready. Your cause leaves no room for hesitation. You handle the executions, Jordan, but hurry. The Legion is about to attack. At least we don't have to worry about getting attacked from the rear. Go on, get your verdicts. I'll be waiting for you up on the walls. Leaving a small squad with you, Sophia rushes off to defend the gate. You eagerly get to work. Your soldiers dash around the wrecked camp and drag all the survivors to one spot. High-ranking nobles, inquisitors, commoners from the enemy militia, they are all thrown to the ground at your feet. You are surrounded by a horde of enraged commoners, desperate to strangle their enemies with their bare hands. You order them to restrain themselves. This is not how it is done. Do they want their enemies to come back from the hereafter and take revenge? You need the verdict of the people's court. At your order, the captives are lined up and forced to their knees. The crowd cheers in bloodthirsty anticipation, eager for the next execution. The gunmen raise their muskets. You address the people of Anizot, loudly announcing that these are enemies of their freedom, who have dared to take up arms against the great cause of the revolt. What is their verdict? True death! The gunmen take aim and fire, again and again, until the last of the captives falls, their bodies pierced by bullets. They twitch helplessly, then lie still. Meanwhile, you can hear the din of battle from the walls. Siege ladders fly up against the ramparts. The ground shakes with the heavy tread of the Legion's iron boots. You must hurry. You assemble a squad and head toward the gate. It is slow going. Fires have blanketed Anizot in acrid smoke. The noble districts are in flames, as is the Chancellery. The temples of the old faith are ablaze, and priests who refuse to join the rebels are burned alive within. Bodies dressed in luxurious clothing float face down in the fountains. The bodies of those executed by firing squad lay in heaps by the walls. The cobblestones are littered with the corpses of those hurled from the windows of their own homes. Robbers loot the crypts of noble families, tossing ancient bones into the dirt. But right now the streets are empty. Everyone capable of holding a weapon is rushing to defend the gate. By the time you arrive, the battle has already reached its peak. Deafening gunshots ring out from above. Brante, come here! We have fought off the first attack! You clamber up onto the wall, giving orders as you go, as if placing toy soldiers. You almost bump into Sophia. She is excited, her black from gunpowder smoke. She squeezes your shoulder. We repelled the first attack, Jordan. That blue-faced bastard sent us a herald, said we should lie down our arms and surrender. I shot him right in his head. Meanwhile, the Overseer orders another assault. Take the walls! Come on, men! They're just commoners. They don't stand a chance against you. This time, Gaius Tempest sends 2 battalions of heavy infantry at the wall to the left of the gate. They are followed by archers. Not even gunshots can stop this attack. The ladders fly up. A hail of arrows pelt your positions. Hold the line! I'll hit the archers. You hold the wall. Don't let them through. The defenders of the walls attempt to throw the ladders back, hurtling stone at their assailants and pouring boiling oil on them, but the onslaught is too strong. One by one, the Legion soldiers begin to leap from their ladders and onto the city walls. If you falter now, all is lost. You gather your best men and send them against the Legion soldiers. The walls erupt into bloody mayhem. All over the walls, the bodies of the fallen fade into brilliant flashes of light. You and your soldiers desperately hack, shoot, and hurl enemies from the walls. The siege ladders fall to the ground below. The attack has been repelled. Twice more, Gaius Tempest orders his troops to attack the wall. Twice more, the walls are stained with blood. Twice more, your soldiers would stand the onslaught. The dawn is drawing near. Even from your position on the walls, you see the Legion soldiers slowly, hesitatingly regrouping for their next attack. Desperate, the Overseer himself steps forward to address his demoralized troops. Are you really afraid of some commoners who can barely hold a weapon? Don't fear them, you fools. Fear the wrath of your Emperor. Fear the wrath of the Tempests. It is your sacred duty to re-establish imperial rule in Anisot. The city will fall, and its pathetic rebellion will be crushed. Go forth. I will lead the charge myself. The overseer raises his ancient sword high above his head. The Legion soldiers shudder. No member of the royal family has taken up arms in centuries. The first rays of the rising sun appear on the horizon, breaking through the grey storm clouds. Led by its royal commander, the Legion begins its decisive attack. Ragged, covered in blood, barely able to stand, you get the surviving soldiers back on their feet and order them to defend the city one last time. Not even the twins themselves could get through this gate. But the time for speeches has long passed. Now there is only smoke, blood, clanking of swords. Now you can just fight and win. You see the Imperial banner flutter before you. The Legion soldiers are scaling the wall, the Overseer himself first among them. You and your men rush toward the banner. You will capture Gaius Tempest. Sensing that victory is close at hand, your warriors use their last ounce of strength to break through to the enemy commander. The Legionnaires try to form a defensive ring around the Overseer, but the enraged rebels dash them aside like toy soldiers. Gaius Tempest is surrounded. Wielding his sword masterfully, he slays one of your soldiers after another. Sophia suddenly emerges from behind him, her furious visage aglow with sorcerer's sparks. Freeze! Against his will, the Arcanian nobleman stumbles and halts. It is now or never. You charge at your enemy and knock the blade from his hands. Still bound by Sophia's spell, Gaius Tempest stares at you in astonishment. A dozen soldiers pin him against the wall. Sophia stops beside you, casting a mocking glance at the defeated commander. Who's the master now, huh? The leader of the revolt picks up a fallen Imperial banner and tosses it over the edge of the wall. Down below, the soldiers of the Legion begin to flee. You have won! The surviving defenders on the walls lean against the Merlons, exhausted or simply collapse. Down by the gate you hear triumphant shouts. Like a wave they roll further, over the streets and squares, over the entire city. Victory! Anisot has won its freedom. The Overseer glares at you icily. There is genuine bitterness in his voice. Madmen, you've doomed your city. It'll be destroyed. I was not your enemy until you forced me to send my army against you. One step at a time I would have changed this province. I would have made your lives better. But now the entire force of the Empire is about to come crashing down upon you. The punishment for your insolence will be terrible indeed. And what will it all be for? What do you hope to achieve? Freedom from butchers like you. Butchers like me? And what exactly do you think you are? You withstood my attack today. Now what? Do you want the entire world at war? What will become of the Empire after you revolt? Only the twins can judge us now. You look back at your city, crimson in the glow of the flames and the rays of the rising sun. You turn back to your former ruler. I want to burn it all down. Those who used to be in power will burn. The old regime will burn. The endless injustice the Empire is built on, it will all burn. Sophia grabs the captive commander by the neck and forces him to face the city. A massive crowd has gathered by the gate. Everyone is watching, waiting to see what will become of this Overseer. See how many of us there are? Your day is done. Say bye-bye to your power, Blueface. Sophia raises a fist in the air and proclaims victory before the entire city. People of Anisot, we have won. Nothing in the Empire can stop us now. But remember, this was just the beginning. Next week, we're going to put the whole Empire on trial, and the first person we're going to judge is Gaius Tempest, your former Overseer and the Emperor's brother. You know all about his crimes against you. What is your verdict, people of Anisot? The fateful words roll through the crowd like thunder. True death! This cannot be. The law is divine. Only the twins can grant the right to judge. Sophia hands you a dagger. Jordan Brante will carry out the sentence. Raising the blade aloft, you step forward. Step toward Gaius Tempest as he kneels before you. The crowd roars. Strength beyond imagining surges through your arm. With one swift motion, you slit the former Overseer's throat. Royal blood runs down your fingers. The man who just yesterday was one of the most powerful Arcanians in the Empire collapses at your feet. You raise the bloody dagger high in the air. The Empire has been sentenced to death. Time stands still. You look back at the years gone by, all the difficult decisions you had to make, all the actions that helped you take your own place in history. You have put an end to the old era with your own hand. Your destiny has been fulfilled. He is dead! The Overseer is dead! Go, people! There are plenty of enemies left in this city. It's high time they learn the true meaning of suffering. Find them, capture them, and execute them. Brante will lead you. And Gaius Tempest faces true death. The Overseer of Margla met his demise at your hands. The bloody procession begins to scour Anizot for enemies of the revolt. Once the city is purged, it will continue its march from province to province. In time, it will reach the capital and then the throne of the Emperor himself, and you are in command of it. Well, hopefully if we are in command of it, we'll have a better chance at a peaceful victory than we did in this city. A reign of terror for the commoners, the city is unrest, Magra has become a barren land, and the fall of the old faith has happened. The Anizot Massacre. The revolt led by Sophia wins at the cost of relentless massacre. Unfortunately, we couldn't do anything to stop it.
Fire and blood engulfed the streets of Anizote before spreading to the rest of the empire.
A new day dawns. We didn't die a true death, and we didn't escape from the city. It is morning. You stumble along a now empty back street, utterly exhausted after the most trying night of your life. An elderly stranger in a threadbare cloak shambles down the road in the opposite direction. The old man looks around cautiously at every step, seemingly struggling to remember where he is going. As you approach him, he suddenly stops and speaks to you. Good morning to you. You slow down for the old man and wearily return his greeting. May I ask for a favour, my friend? You barely have any energy to waste today, but there is something about this old stranger's voice that compels you to listen. A favour? What kind of favour? Well, my brother and I had a disagreement, you see, and I want to know who was right. My brother says this world is already perfect as it is. The twins made it like this, after all. The old stranger pauses, casting a glance over the street. The charred carcasses of buildings and homes, the overturned carriages, the dried blood stains on the paving stones. And I told my brother that no matter what their initial design may have been, the world as it is now needs to change. So then my brother asked me what exactly needs changing, but I had no answer for him. So here I am, wandering around, tormented by this question. Will you help us settle our dispute, my good man? Who is in the right here, me or my brother? If you were in the twins' place, what would you do? What about this world needs changing? And we can pick all the options, which is good. So we could say nothing and walk away. We could say we would destroy the world because of the Anizot massacre. We would free mortals from their lots. We would take better care of the world. We would leave the world alone, or we would grant the world forgiveness. And we can do that because we made Nathan a prophet. So we could say that life is a long road and mistakes are inevitable. The twins ought to grant mortals hope for forgiveness. I like that option, and also because it's because we made Nathan a prophet. So that's one option I would consider. Do I believe the twins made the world perfect? No. So I don't think I will go with that. I would take better care of the world. I don't think that's true either. I think the twins gave us free will, and we decide what we do with it. We could say if it were up to us, we would make it known that everyone is free to choose their own lot and their own path to twins. That's the only other option I like, but because the other one is Nathan with a prophet, I'm going to go with this. I'm going to say we would grant the world forgiveness. You rub your temples, thinking and recall the last words you hear from Nathan. He spoke of forgiveness. You have an answer for the old man. It's possible this old man represents the elder and the younger. He did say he disagreed with his brother. So it could be that the old man is actually the elder, walking amongst us. The twin gods know no mercy. That is why their world is flawed. The twins granted us their law in order to steer us away from eternal suffering in the afterlife, but this same law also dooms our souls to torment at the foot of the pillar for even the slightest transgression. A man who commits a single error has no hope for redemption. Our existence is nothing more than an agonizing preamble to inevitable retribution. Is this really what the twins wanted for us? They gave mortals free will, and so they were filled with passions, doubts, and desires. You know this as well as anyone. If you were them, you would grant people forgiveness, or at least grant it in those who truly repent and make an effort to right their own wrongs. The elderly man listens carefully to your every word. His eyes are wide, like a child seeing the world around him for the first time. You know, someone else told me something very similar, a young man who was far too old and wise for his years. I can feel the pain and truth in your words. Thank you, Jordan, for settling our disagreement. The old man rewards you with a gentle smile and slowly walks away. Wait, how did he know your name? You spin around, but the street is empty. I believe that was the elder. Outcome of the revolt. It only took a few days for the entire empire to learn of the revolt and the events that had transpired in Anizot. The unthinkable victory of the common folk over the war engine that was the Imperial Legion, the ruthless and fearsome leaders of the rebellion, the terrifying slaughter of the nobles, priests, and anyone else who stood in the insurgents' way. By the end of the second day, the revolt had reduced the city of Anizot to a charred, smouldering ruin. Thick, acrid smoke from burning buildings and gunpowder blanketed the city. Bodies swung from ropes on every street, the results of the justice of the people's court. Sprawled, abandoned, lead-riddled corpses can be found in every square. The events of those days entered the annals of history as the Great Anizot Massacre. But the rebels were not content. Having purged all their enemies from Anizot, they immediately began to march across the province. Every town and village in their way was freed from the noble rule. As the landowners fled in terror, the commoners abandoned their homes and armed themselves to fight beneath the banner of the last straw. The rebel army grew larger and stronger by the day. So began their bloody campaign of destruction. Wherever the rebels marched, the old ways of the empire collapsed. They had no mercy, leaving nothing behind but smouldering ruins and ashes of the dead. Age-old traditions burn as their ravenous flames consume town after town, city after city. The old noble dynasties are amassing their own armies beneath the banner of the Tempest to fight off this chaos, but the rebel hordes are already approaching the capital. There is no stopping them. Sophia's dream of waging war against the old world has begun. Regardless of the outcome, the empire will never be the same again. And that looks like it, I think. Oh, maybe not. Power. The bloodthirsty march of the rebellion obliterated any semblance of rule in Magra. The last straw and its followers massacred all the old rulers, leaving chaos and anarchy in their wake. It was only inevitable that the province would fall into the hands of outlaws and marauders. The old ways are gone, but can the power of Magra build something new in their place? The new faith has prevailed at last. Now everyone in Magra knows that the old faith is a lie, perpetuated by the church authorities to doom people to suffer in life and after death. The teachings of Isatias must be eradicated forever. New faith fanatics hunt down and judge the priests, who still have the goal to preach the old faith. Everyone must undergo the new sacrament and break free of their past lot, or face death in the flames. The land of Magra is dead. The crises of the past few years have annihilated the province's former prosperity. The fields have been razed, trampled and scorched. The livestock has been culled. The factories lie in ruins. The common folk face one lesser death after another from illness and hunger. Even the wealthiest noble estates have grown destitute. The land scarred by Charmalanandas's curse has reaped yet another harvest of lives. The years of unrest have left a mark on Magla. People no longer fear or respect the rule of law. Disorder continues to spread throughout the land. The only thing capable of maintaining an unsteady balance is a brute force. As carnage, riots, and disdain for the law continue to plague the province, it will be a long time before Magla has a chance at peace again. Nathan the Prophet taught the people of the Empire that anyone who violates the law of the twins should pray to them and ask their forgiveness. The people were reluctant to believe his word at first, until they saw the signs from the gods themselves. Every person who endured a lesser death and went to meet the twins now returned to the mortal world bearing their glad tidings. The gods have learned from what it means to forgive, and they shall grant forgiveness to all who sincerely repent and are prepared to right the wrongs they have done. The people of the Empire now have hope, a promise of forgiveness no matter their transgressions. I'm happy for Nathan. He finally found his calling in life. What became of Dorius Otten? The Arcanian commander fought with all his might against the rebellious rabble he so despised, yet even a skilled swordsman such as he was doomed when confronted with a citywide uprising. The haughty Arcanian became Sophia's prisoner, and so his life was forfeit. He spent his final moments in inconceivable agony. Sophia did not permit him to die until his spirit and body were completely and utterly broken. Long after the once invincible Dorius Otton was no more, the corpse of the mighty Arcanian remained chained to the Anisot gate. I can't say I'm pleased about that, but I can't say I'm sad for him either. Ulrich. Ulrich took advantage of the chaos that had gripped Anisot and the painful schism within the ranks of the Inquisition to easily evade pursuit. The heretical Inquisitor is still at large, preaching his doctrine somewhere on the edge of the Empire, forcing the willis to sacrament upon more and more new adepts. The profane heresy survived, and now it bides time, waiting to emerge, and someday, somewhere, it will. August in Elborn. When Prefect Elborn saw firsthand the atrocities being committed on the streets of Anisot, he did what he could to urge the people to stop Sophia and her henchmen by any means necessary. He was already too late. In the end, Elborn shared the same fate as the last Straw's other enemies. The former judge faced death with dignity, showing no fear before the rebels' muskets. His face expressed only deep, bitter sorrow. Sir Elborn is remembered as one of the ringleaders of the Anisot massacre and the bloodthirsty rebellion that poisoned the entire empire. Father Leonard. Leonard railed furiously against the murderous executions perpetrated. In an effort to end the massacre, he sought to reconcile the opposing factions. Leonard was labelled an enemy of the revolt. For crimes against the great cause, the People's Court sentenced him to death, along with its other perceived foes. He spent his final moments in prayer, tormented by the realization that he had unwillingly helped to precipitate this terrible slaughter. Leonard is remembered by the new believers as the greatest preacher of his day, but among old believers, he left an undying legacy as a nemesis of the Church who violated the twins' divine design. Poor Leonard, that's not the ending I would have wanted for him at all. Tomas. By the time the revolt had set Anisot ablaze, Tomas Guerlo was already living a new life with his family far from the city. It seemed as though he could finally enjoy a peaceful life. But a few months later, the rebellion reached the sleepy village where your friend and his wife had put down roots. A horde of rebels approached the village where they lived, and most of the villagers joined them, eager to loot and pillage their very own community. Thomas fought desperately for his life and livelihood, but he was torn limb from limb by his former neighbours. This is a horrible ending. Jean was captured by the last straw insurgents. They sentenced her to true death as one of the most ardent opponents of the revolt. By Sophia's order, the People's Court burned the priestess at the stake in view of the ruins of the Inquisition ward. Ever since she was young, Sophia had been a living embodiment of hatred, the spawn of every hideous injustice committed in the Empire. She prevailed in the struggle for Anisot, and that victory finally revealed her true power. Now Sophia casts her shadow over every corner of the Empire, her eyes blazing with yellow flame, eager to incinerate every army and province in her path. No one can stop Sophia and defeat her bloodthirsty hordes. After the victory in Anisot, the invertebrate rebel began a brutal war against the Old Order, a war that had seemed utterly unthinkable just a few years ago, a war of annihilation. Sophia is remembered as the woman who destroyed the blessed Arcanian Empire and burned the old world to the ground. You defended your home from a gang of thugs, but nothing could protect your family from the doom that awaited them soon after. When the massacre began, every single member of the Brante family was murdered. The Brantes never sided with the rebellion, and they paid a terrible price for it. The Brante estate was razed to the ground. All within its walls are dead, murdered by the ruthless mob and condemned by the People's Court. Even the family crypt was desecrated and destroyed. Committing blasphemy and defiling the final resting place of the dead meant nothing to the crazed looters. The ignoble fate of the Brante family became a tragic tale told among the people for years to come. Our whole family died. Stefan. I'm assuming Nathan is dead as well. And father. Your father fought to his last breath to protect his home against a horde of Sophia's bloodthirsty followers in what came to be known as the Anisot massacre, but in the end he suffered the same fate as all the other enemies of the revolt. In accordance with the verdict of the People's Court, Robert Brante was torn apart by the rabid mob. We could have prevented all of this. Your mother passed away from illness long before these events transpired. Lydia Brante was not there to see what became of her family. Probably a good thing. When the fateful day came, Stefan fought for dear life side by side with your father, just as any true nobleman would have. But his courage and valor were not enough to best the bloodthirsty mob. They mercilessly executed him after murdering your father. This is the worst ending in the game. I tried so hard with this to not get this ending, and I failed. Gloria's new life as a noblewoman's wife put an end to her youthful ardour. When she moved to her husband's home, her fervent poetry and her struggle in the name of the common folk remained in the past. As time went on, she languished more and more in the monotony of her new life. After the Brante family cut all ties with her, Gloria felt all alone in the world and sunk deeper into melancholy by the day. Sir Jose L. Pelletier offered her genuine love, but she never came to accept it. He tended to her with selfless, cordial care, but his efforts were all rejected. Driven to despair, Gloria eventually attempted to flee but was caught. El Pelletier never forgave her for this. Once she had been returned, Gloria's husband treated her like property, denying her any freedom whatsoever. And so Gloria remained in her noble mansion to the end of her days, surrounded by luxury, silence, and solitude. I thought she would have been killed. Nathan left Anizot with your blessing, inexplicably managing to escape the city in the middle of the revolt. He then set out on a lengthy journey across the Empire. He emerged unscathed from every danger or hardship he encountered during his travels. It was as though the twins themselves were watching over him. One day, after months of wandering the world as a pilgrim, Nathan suddenly returned to Anizot. Your brother walked to the silver tree where he spoke to the people. He told him about how he had met the elder twin himself, who had descended from on high to walk the world once more. Nathan confessed all his transgressions and sins to him, knowing full well that he would find no mercy, only eternal torment at the foot of the pillar. To his surprise, the elder listened to him, with tears in his eyes. Filled with compassion for his own creation, he forgave Nathan for all the evils he had done. After his sermon, followers started flocking to Nathan's side. In time, they came to call themselves the Elder's Witnesses. Their teachings began to make their way across the Empire. To this day, Nathan's disciples still spread the word. The twin gods have learned forgiveness. Well, congratulations, Nathan. The best ending for him. Not even in the afterlife did Gregor Brante see the realization of his great dream. His descendants failed to have the Brante name ennobled by the sword. The Brante bloodline was denied its chance to become one of the Empire's most eminent dynasties. The blood tide ushered in by Gregor Brante would never have another chance at immortality. Side by side with Sophia, you began the march against the old ways, and the rebellious hordes followed you. No one remembered your old name any longer, but your new name instilled terror in every corner of the Empire. The Butcher of Anizot. The cruelty with which you dispatched your enemies became the stuff of legend. Along the way you faced many powerful foes, and you crushed them all, free from fear of death, unafraid of the twins' judgment. Again and again you emerged from the flames to bring the common folk the freedom they so coveted, and they fought for you until they bled their last. You, the Butcher of Anizot, became a flame that incinerated the monstrous, decrepit husk of an empire until nothing remained. But it was not your fate to see whether or not a new world would rise from the ashes of the old. So ends the life and suffering of Jordan Brante. And there we have it. We finally got through death. And the worst ending in the game. The hour of your death has come. Your soul has left your body, never to return. You are taken to the peak of the shining pillar. Every moment separates you more and more from the mortal realm. The link that once bound you is gone forever. You look up to see two twin visages watching you intently. The elder twin gazes upon you full of sorrow and compassion. The younger examines you dispassionately, seeing your every act and thought. You have ascended from the mortal realm. From here you are but one step away from partaking in eternal bliss atop the peak of the shining pillar. But first you must be judged by them. Just as every other soul born in this world has been judged since time immemorial, only their judgment can decide whether you deserve to remain atop the peak or be hurled down to the foot. You stand before the twins. Your very essence is laid bare before them, all the secrets of your inner self revealed in full. Your soul is like an open book to them, one that preserves the story of your entire life. You lie prostrate before the gods. The time has come to take responsibility for your mortal life. And the elder twin asks, are you thankful to the gods for the life you lived? I am thankful. I am glad it is over. I refuse to submit to them. I'm calm. I regret it. I despise them. I am thankful. I had a chance to change the world for the better. I failed, but I'm thankful I had the opportunity to do so. Your soul is filled with love for those who created you and gave you the gift of life. They hear your answer. Compassion and remorse fill the immeasurable deep eyes of the elder twin. He turns to face his divine brother, who returns his gaze with an expression of stern remorse. The elder twin asks you once more, "What was your life about?" Service. We try to do our best for everyone. We try to serve the twins, and we try to serve those of our parishioners. We spent our life in service to others. The elder twin bows his head wearily, considering your response, but the stern visage of the younger already looms above you. Human, by the name of Brante, what did I live for? Principles, freedom, power, a cause, happiness, other people, faith. It has to be faith. We strove to gain a better understanding of the twins and find your own path to them, which we did. We believed a new faith was the way forward. The younger gaze lingers on you, on your bare, defenseless soul. The divine figure continues its stern interrogation. What did you leave behind? Change, order, doctrine, home, legacy, achievement, nothing. We did bring change and order and doctrine because of the new faith. Not order, sorry, change and doctrine definitely. We did leave a legacy, but I don't want to go with that. I'm going to say doctrine. We believed in the new faith and it changed the world. The younger twin now moves toward you with clear intent, poised to render his judgment, while the elder twin restrains his brother with a gesture. A divine voice filled you once again. Did your life make the world we made better and more perfect? It didn't become better. It cannot be changed. It did not become better. It became worse. Or that is not for me to judge. I hate to say it, but I believe it became worse. You left the mortal world a far more terrible place than it was before. You didn't mean to, but that's what happened. The young twin is silent, his eyes two swords piercing your soul. The elder twin speaks to you again, but you already know the question, the very same question that caused you so much suffering shortly before your true and final death. What determined my destiny? Myself? The world around me? A higher power? Or no one? I'm going to say ourselves. I know we believe in the twins and all their power, but we just made all the decisions. We decided what we wanted to do. My life has always been mine to live. I made my own destiny. The gods gave me free will. The twin gods exchange a glance that lasts a brief moment and all eternity. Then the hand of the elder twin reaches out to you, glowing with light and warmth. The gods offer you an unprecedented opportunity to change your destiny, to rewrite the book of your life. Will you like to take a different path in life? I wasn't expecting this. My life is over. I will face whatever awaits me with no regrets. I will return to the mortal world and live in a different way. I think we have to live by our decisions. We made them. Sacrifice everything. I really want to say yes, and the gods have given me that chance, but no, as painful as it is for me to say, I made the decisions. Be it for good or for ill, I need to live by them. My life is over. I will face whatever awaits me with no regrets. You reject the hand of the elder. The immense divine silhouette withdraws in sorrow. The younger twin steps forward, leaving you to face his law alone. The twins' judgment is nearing its end. The soul of a man named Brante lies prostrate at your feet. You have witnessed his entire life, known his every act, seen his every thought and desire. No other soul could ever walk the same path. So many difficult choices, so many emotions, so much pain. Another soul awaits your judgment. You know no mercy, nor does your brother. Every mortal must walk the path chosen for him to the very end. Those who abide by the precepts set forth by you and your brother shall return to you and become a part of you. Those who reject shall know the eternal suffering of oblivion. Where does the man named Jordan Brante belong? Oh, this is incredible. I didn't think we'd get to become the younger and choose the faith of our character. In all honesty, I think we belong at the peak of the pillar. And I'm not saying that because he's my character and I have a love for Jordan Brante. As I said before, I'm honest, and I said I made the world a worse place. But if you go back and read what it says, every mortal must walk the path chosen for him to the very end. Those who abide by the precepts set forth by you and your brother shall return to you and become a part of you at the peak of the pillar. Those who reject you shall know the eternal suffering of oblivion. We did that. We didn't reject the gods, we followed their laws and we even changed them. We brought about some good. I do believe Jordan Brante belonged at the peak of the pillar, and this man shall know eternal bliss. He's had a very painful life, he deserves some happiness. You gingerly grasp the fragile soul, lift it up and turn to face your elder brother. You lift your sword. Your brother stands with arms akimbo, ready for the blow. The blade slices through his chest, blinding light gushes from the gash. You bring the minuscule soul to your brother's chest and it dissolves in the streams of his shimmering luminescence. A tiny fragment of your shared creation has rejoined the whole. The man Brante is no more. There is only the eternal fount in which he now abides. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the life and suffering of Sir Brante, the Inquisitor path. Congratulations, it's the very first series on the channel to be completed, so thank you for being here with me through it all. I have so much to say about this game that I probably will make a video about it when I've completed both the Noble and the Conspirator path. We're not far away from completing the Noble, but we haven't really started the Conspirator, only a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my Friday series of the Inquisitor with the Conspirator path, and then once all three are completed, I'll probably make a review of this game and talk about different aspects, its characters, what I liked, what I didn't like, and so on. But I do want to say a few remarks about this playthrough. It's been amazing. You know, we got the worst ending and I'm very sad about that because I really cared about Jordan Brante and his family and friends, and it didn't work out how I planned. But I'm very happy in the end that he got to the top of the pillar. I'm very glad actually they gave us a choice of that, and I do think I was honest and genuine in my reasoning for letting him reach the foot of the pillar. So I will end his life and finish the chronicle of Jordan Brante. And there we have it, the end of Jordan Brante's life. There's so much I want to say about this game, but I'm going to wait until I've completed both the Noble and Conspirator paths, and then I'll make a video and talk about all of it. I'm going to replace our Friday video with the Conspirator path until we complete the game, and then I'll make a separate video and talk about the whole game. Incredible, I have to say. The decision making was really good, the writing was good for most of it. Decision making is good, replayability is great. I'm happy for Jordan Brante that he got the peak of the pillar, and I think I was honest and genuine in making that decision. You know, I tried my best to get a good ending, to be a nice, kind, compassionate character. You know, and that's why I believe he deserves to be at the peak of the pillar, because he tried to do his best. He didn't succeed, and we admitted we made the world worse off than it was, but you know, we did try, and you know, I think good intentions have to be acknowledged with that. But fantastic game. Congratulations if you stayed with me for this video, with this series, because this is the first time we finished a series on the channel, so it's a big milestone for us. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you can, please consider giving a like to the channel and subscribe to follow me on the rest of the paths of Morgan and Isaac Brante, our Noble and Conspirator, and who knows how they will fare. Maybe they'll fare better than Jordan. We'll find out. But I will see you all in the next video. Take care and have a good day.